Greetings. This is Paul, and I have this extra thing going on now about dealing with the internet, and I added this to lesson number 11 only because we're dealing with the internet, and one of the greatest fears that people have concerning their computer is the attachment of viruses getting into their computer and having a real mess, and worst of all, their computer stops working. As this has been a very strong concern, I have run into problems where that extreme condition has happened more than once. One thing that I had to ask myself is, do I really understand what a virus is? And over the past several years, a new term came out that is now called malware. And, I thought that was a completely different breed than a virus. So I had to determine in my own mind, what is a virus, and what are all these things that are going around with different terms. Why so many different terms? They must be something different, not just something in common. Well, I made an extensive study and came up with a report of my study for up to 7 pages, and I have these handouts that are available that will be able to get a good understanding of what I've studied and came up with. When I was dealing with one of my technical support assisted areas, I asked them about it, and really they were limited on the information of what they knew, and they've been schooled into what to do about certain problems, but really not a thorough understanding. So I chose to get into this study for myself. Now, there are different kinds of infections that can get on your computer and mine or anybody's because of several things. One thing is dealing with a variety of different operations on the computer, and they're not just something that people are writing for kicks, like I always been saying in the past. It's a very serious part of business that is taking place on your computer. One of the greatest fears is remains with the possibility of such infections. Not only that, when they are infections that are understood. One of the most common things that is taking place on a detection of a virus is how slow a computer might be operating. And there is a lot of things going on. In fact, Windows has a reputation of really slowing down, and should be reinstalled periodically because of this slowing down. And I've heard people say that on different levels. A lot of people with very high intelligence with their computers, when really what is going on is that there are viruses running on your computer in the background, taking up resources, and we're going to get more into that. Very often this comes into a situation where we go on the web and we're looking for a specific program that is going to meet our needs, and along with it is a lot of attachments for extra programs that you really don't understand. And when you don't pay attention to each and every window that pops up for this installation, then you open the door for some kind of thing going on with your computer that you never knew, and you wind up with programs you never understood what they were intended for. Well, one of the biggest problems on this, they also promote a lot of toolbars for on your browser to be able to make certain advantages of selections that are going on your computer. It might be in the form of many different things, and yes, even Christian downloads will offer what is these toolbars to be installed on your computer. And very often you'll just go along and think, well, I have to accept it and accept it, when really you don't. Pay attention to all of this that is going down, and you don't have to accept anything more than what you want. This is a virus. A virus, in this sense, is not only installing a toolbar on your computer, but it is tracking your activities for the people that has sent you these programs, and they are monitoring your activity. Everything that is going on your computer is going to be fed into their database in the direction for them to go into, know what is popular or is a logical, useful thing that they could gain, have you spend your money on, and it was something that was never intended. Another dangerous thing about this is also there are downloads that will even go into more than that. One of the examples is that there is a popular web tool that goes on the toolbar on the bottom of your computer, and it'll report the weather to you. And in this case, that thing is not only active when you're in the web browser, but whenever you turn on your computer. So it's monitoring everything you're doing and making these reports as you're connected to the web, especially with wideband now, that you're never shutting down your computer without the web already in force. In the old days, you have to use the dial-up, and you would dial up and use it for what you wanted and shut down right away. And today with broadband, you got the broadband running all the time, and that means that reports are being made on your computer when you are not suspecting anything going on. Well, with several different toolbars, and I ran into one time where I was victim of this myself. I had a half a dozen or more toolbars and just merely deactivate them from my view to keep a decent window on my screen for viewing on the internet. But really, those toolbars were still there and still recording and going on. And with all this going on, it took a lot of activity from my computer to maintain these things going on in the background. As a result, a lot of pop-ups would come up making offers to me that was customized for my interest. And although I never went ahead and was able to make use of it, why I resisted all such advertising, since it was something that I was not really looking for at all. So one thing I got into a habit of is to go into my installation of or removal, uninstall and install programs, and if there was any toolbars installed on my computer, to uninstall them from that area. And only then, it's not only removed from sight in my browser, but it is also taken out of my computer. Just because a program is not in view, it doesn't mean it's not running in the background. Well, viruses come down on your computer by way of piggybacking extra programs for something that you want, and they are installed by your actual permission. When you think that you have to accept everything that's coming down because you want that main program and that is it, and you feel that you have obligation to accept what the whole package is, there was only one time where I had to uninstall a program and actually download a secondary program because it did need that program for that to function. That only happened one time, but on the others it was not necessary. So really be very logical and grant permission only to the things you really want. And this has to do with what we have with viruses. There is also a lot of security threats going on that the way they get onto your computer is getting through your firewall. And there is a lot of controversy about Trojan horses. Trojan horses is something that is really spread not so much by downloading desired programs and piggybacking extras on there, but a Trojan horse is something that will attach itself to a file, and most commonly it is downloaded through the aid of email, social networking, and other things that are going to be attached to it. And when this kind of activity takes place, the Trojan horse keeps on opening itself as it attaches itself to other files. These files could be programs that are already installed on your computer that was never infected before, or it can even be attached to your personal files that is on the computer as well. And one thing that I am in the habit of doing on this is that I'm in the habit of taking care to save all of my personal data on an external source that is removable or is not physically attached to my computer. Basically, these type of information is attached to the C drive. The C drive is the most common drive because everybody needs a C drive for the operating system to work and everything else. I've seen it on the news from time to time about the threat of infections coming through email. And yes, it will even infect files that are on your cell phone or smartphone, as well as pads. It gets around to everywhere since your cell phones and smartphones are computers. And these infections will spread around the networks and be able to do their accomplishments that they were meant to do. Now, a worm is where you've probably heard a term of a worm. It will take this principle and not only attach itself to other files, but it will go from one file to another. It's much more intricate in its direction, that it keeps on going from one to another instead of coming from an original source. In other words, a worm, when it is opened or activated when you open your email and open an attachment from somebody you don't know, this type of infection will, once you find out what's going on, and you say, oh, it's in my email, I'm going to delete it. Well, the damage is already done and it will continue to spread because it is not dependent on the original file that came on the computer. It will continue to infect one to another until it has done its damage. Well, one thing more about a Trojan horse is that it made hacking possible. A Trojan horse may give a hacker a remote access to your computer, and at that time they will be able to do almost anything they want. Operations that could be performed by a hacker may be caused unintentionally by program operations. The targeted computer might include things like the use of a machine as part of a botnet, what is called it's automated spamming, or to distribute denial of service attacks. You might relate to this where people break into, it was suspected that somebody got a hold of your password and got into your account and started sending things out that was not sent by you, but is using your account. Well, this is a type of a Trojan horse that gets in there and makes use of your computer and your email account. And the answer to that is to change your email and also get rid of all the files that has been working under that. Electronic money theft. If I've said it before, I've had people say, "Well, I don't want to use my bank account online, but somebody else can do it." If you don't set up a password of your own to your account, why, somebody will be able to get into your account and be able to steal money from your bank account. Data theft is also another thing that will experience. You'll see that certain information has been leaked out, and it was unintentional. Even with government agencies and everybody, there has been a lot of data theft being going on there, and several times I've received notices that such activity is going on. There's a lot in the system that they pay people to look out for things like this taking place, monitoring the activity of what is going on with the web service, and realize what kind of things is going on in this fashion. Modification or deletion of files. There are times that I've had a couple computers of experience where certain programs were installed and the next day they were not there. You could have had a program on your computer all the time, and all at once it's no longer there and you don't know what happened. Also, it might be relocated or sent to a different location that is unaware of, and it is lost on your computer. It might still be there because there are certain threads that link to it, and they leave it there so that there's no detection of its violation. But in turn, you lost it from access through the normal channels of using your desktop and going through the menu system. And I take a notice of my time here. I'm going on 20 minutes, and if I make it too long, it'll take a very long time for your being able to download this video and be able to watch it efficiently. So this is the end of the first part of this, and in the next one I'm going to continue on with the explanation of what's going on with your computer and what you can do to protect it. So this is Paul, and I ask you to go to the next part of understanding what a virus is and what malware is and how it affects your computer. As you get to know more about this and such activities start taking place, you'll be able to recognize what is going on with your computer and realize that something needs to be done about it. This is Paul Jones, and I thank you for your attention on this very important matter.